So we have had some very interesting guests on our Wednesday webinars, and today's is no exception. And we were very pleased that Victoria and Dee were going to join us today to talk about their recovery facilitation programs. And we have bios of both Dee Burrows and Victoria which will be on our website recording, so you can read all about their background and see more about them. So I will now pass over to Victoria and we'll begin the session. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you so much, Sally, and welcome everyone to today's session on recovery, the science and art of generating hope. Just to give us a brief introduction, Dee and I are obviously business partners in Energise Health. Dee is a nurse by background. I'm an occupational therapist and case manager, and we are both absolutely passionate about how self-management can influence recovery and improve people's well-being. And that's ultimately where the spark and the spirit of Energize recovery programs came for, which we're going to be talking to you about today. So the webinar today is the first of a two-series taster sessions about our recovery facilitation programs. And today we are going to be looking at, Dee, if you could just swap over. Thank you very much. So today we're going to be providing a brief overview of the principles of recovery. We're going to be offering some insight into the Energize recovery programs, and we're going to illustrate that with a participant reflection from one of our past participants, Leanne. And then the most interactive part of the session is we are going to teach you a few bite-sized recovery strategies that you can take away, either to use with your clients or to use for yourself to improve your recovery and well-being. So we do hope you will enjoy today's session. And I'm now going to pass over to Dee to start looking at the recovery principles.
Thank you, Victoria. So we're going to start with a brief overview of recovery, just outlining what it is and what the key principles are. Okey-dokey. So recovery is very much about a process of change. It's about living as well as possible. And the art of recovery is that it's a process through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live a self-directed life, and strive to reach their full potential. So it's not about getting better or being normal or recapturing what I once was. Rather, it's focusing on the social, emotional, spiritual, and physical well-being needed to enable the individual to be hopeful, to rediscover their personal identity, and through self-management to take control and develop a menu of coping tools and life skills. Laurie Davidson has identified 10 principles of recovery, and we just want to run through those with you. So first of all, she talks about building a meaningful and satisfying life as defined by the individual and independent of any symptoms that they may have. So this is about you, not your injury or diagnosis. It's about moving away from pathology, illness, and symptoms of towards health, strength, and wellness. And that keeps people well. It gives their life value and meaning and enables sustained change. Hope is central to recovery. It can be enhanced by individuals seeing how they can have more control. It allows the individual to focus on what is possible and to learn how to thrive instead of just trying to survive. Learning how to manage a condition has been shown to enhance hope, which in turn acts as a catalyst for change and recovery. So self-management is encouraged and facilitated in recovery programs. Individuals are empowered to identify meaningful goals, presented with a toolkit of strategies, some of which Victoria is going to go through later on, and I think I'm doing one or two too. And we encourage people, and self-management encourages people to choose preferred approaches that fit with your individual life. So the helping relationship in recovery programs moves away from expert patient to coach partner. And it's all about this journey of discovery, of personal discovery. It's associated with social inclusion and engaging in meaningful social roles. So it's not just about physical and mental, it's also about social, what's important to the individual. And another key component is therefore about discovering, or I think we like to think of it as rediscovering personal identity that is separate to illness and disability identity. Language, meaning and stories have great significance to recovery, and they're aimed at supporting hope rather than inviting pessimism or chronicity. So that's part of the reason we're called Energize Health, because it's about helping people notice that energy and move forward with it. It emphasizes the personal qualities of staff and their social roles. And it's about helping people to be hopeful, be creative, be compassionate and caring, whilst also being realistic and resilient. So I think I'll just summarize there that essentially recovery programs are a process towards change, living life as well as possible, enabling hope and rediscovery of personal identity through facilitated case self-management that empowers people to take control, and most importantly, to develop a toolkit of strategies. So I'm going to hand back to Victoria now, who's going to say a little bit about the programme and share those participant reflections.
Thanks, Dee. So absolutely. So we're just going to have a quick talk about the actual programs. And as I said at the beginning, we've also got Leanne, who will be joining us via video, not live, but one of our participants, Leanne, who kindly did a pre-recorded video for us. So we'll be showing you that. So Leanne is in her late 30s. And she was injured at work and presented with a variety of problems when she came to us, but most definitely it was low mood and pain were her predominant problems. So Dee, thank you. So we've got two programs that we offer. We've got Energize Recovery, which is designed for participants who are at that very early stage in their recovery journey. And we usually say around the 6 weeks to 6 months post-injury or diagnosis mark on that one. And then we've got Energize Recovery for Life, which is for participants at a much later stage in their journey. So at least 6 months or more post-injury or diagnosis. And Leanne joined us on the Energize Recovery program, so the early intervention program, and she was referred by a case manager, and I believe we've got a few case managers joining us today. So both programs are there to educate participants about how the body and mind respond to injury and long-term conditions, and introduce them to typical body-mind responses that they might experience, such as pain, stress, anxiety and depression, poor sleep, reduced activity levels, fatigue, etc. We support participants in the programs to develop a personalized toolkit of practical evidence-based self-management strategies, and that's to draw from during their recovery and beyond. We want to empower people to not only take the strategies that they can use right here and now, but also that they can learn how to use those strategies going forward into the future, but also to find new strategies that are going to work with them and stay with them throughout their lives. We also teach participants how to integrate these strategies into their daily lives, because as we all know, it's not enough just to know about something. We actually need to have integrated it and found ways of making sure that we can actually practice the strategies that we've learned. The programs are delivered by Microsoft Teams to small facilitated groups of usually up to about 6 people. And the sessions are interactive, meaning that participants feel like they're working in partnership, not only with the facilitators, but also with other members of the group. And we find that's actually really powerful. So we're now going to hear from Leanne, as I said, the video about some of.
Just before we do that, could I just ask you just to just describe what you mean by a facilitated group, just so that we can give people a bit more.
Of course, a great question. Thank you, Sally. Yes, so facilitated means that actually D&I or other facilitators are actually directing the group. So we are educating people live. Obviously, there's a difference between what we call asynchronous and synchronous online courses. There's the asynchronous, which is where it's just a delivered course, which is pre-recorded. And you would then just access it at your own time and leisure, watch the pre-recorded sessions and do your homework in your own time. By facilitated, we're talking about something where people come in at a set time, and much like this in a live environment, D&I would actually be teaching them the skills, etc., like we're doing today.
Okay.
And I'll just add to that, if I may, because I think part of the reason we chose this approach is because we like working with human beings. And it really seems to fit those principles of recovery. It's much more difficult to focus on things like hope and language use in a digital program as opposed to a facilitated program. And we just really enjoy working with our participants as well in that coach partner way. So it feels a bit like a win-win to us.
Yeah. So do a lot of people then would choose the facilitated route rather than an online package, do you find?
So that's also a really good question, Janet. And I think if you look at learning styles, some people prefer one route and some people prefer another route. But I actually think that something that we've seen in the last year is, on the one hand, people have got very much more skilled and familiar with this sort of platform of learning as we're doing this morning. On the other hand, they've got a little stale with the masses of stuff out there that has no human connection in it. So I think we're in changing times, Janet, and
I agree.
I think that what we're really noticing is that people are wanting to be part of a group.
Sure.
And for many people who've had injuries or been diagnosed with a long-term condition, it's definitely a way of reducing some of that social isolation.
Yeah, you're very isolated, aren't you?
Yeah, making connections.
And actually, I think that's, you know, from the feedback that we've captured from the groups to date, that group-based learning environment has been something that people have just so valued. They felt so supported, and actually we get delighted as facilitators where we see our participants actually starting to talk to one another across us. We're like, yay! It doesn't just be us. So when actually they'll start going, hey Bob, what did you think about XYZ? Or what do you do about that? And you go, yes, that's exactly what we're here to do.
And I guess for you guys, it's a kind of a sort of a feedback thing for you, isn't it? Because everybody will be sort of so different. Their circumstances will be different, that you guys will be learning from each of your service users as well.
And that harps back to the recovery model. It's not about that patient expert. It's about, we're in this together as co-learners. And actually, yes, we're bringing certain bits to this, but actually every individual who comes through our virtual doors is bringing something that we're learning from as well, and that other people can learn from too. So absolutely. Okay, so I think then let's move on to Leanne's video and we can hear from somebody directly.
But your result is to allow that person to progress themselves. It's not, you can't force it on somebody. You can't tell somebody how to behave. You can't tell somebody which category they're supposed to follow, or which strategy they're supposed to use. You can't do that with somebody. You can just advise them. And there was definitely a lot of different strategies for me. I think the way that this program worked for me, because for myself, I don't know if I was so off this spectrum. I mean, my medication was beyond belief. The emotional aspect, to the point where suicidal, from being completely active to very inactive. I had 3 limbs of my body not even working on our very first session. And I wanted to kill myself like 3 weeks before we even started talking. I think I had a suicide attempt probably within 6 months of that period. And I haven't since. And that's genuine. I haven't. I've had thoughts of not wanting to be here when things have got bad, but not where I haven't had this thing pop into my head. Just practice your breathing, Leanne, belly breathing. Or right, just let's just go in the woods and do some there's always, look at the pictures on the walls that the kids have provided for you, change the lighting. There's always something. And even though I probably knew about those things, because they weren't in any sort of structure, and to be fair, probably because somebody who I didn't trust actually may have mentioned them to me at one point or another, it became where they weren't effective. But when it becomes part of something that is there to help you, you start thinking about them. And yeah, from going from wanting to not be here anymore, not being part of the family, to using these things to, and by the end of it, I was doing Tai Chi in the woodlands with the eldest girl, and we were doing the visualization, and just sat at home and done nothing and didn't push myself like you suggested for me to do, and start going out there again and experiencing nature, because nature's a big thing for me. I think I wouldn't have been here. I really would not have been here. I'd have either starved myself to death. I'd have gone that bad that I would have taken out my medication, and I wouldn't have been here. And I know I wouldn't. And I've had that discussion with family since, when you told me to start opening up to family. And I think that's probably the reason why, because I opened up to family. There was a lot more monitoring done on my medication and things like that. And I'm at the point where I'm practically taking nothing now. And so there's no risk there for me. And the risk of starvation is sort of turned the other way on, sort of risk of becoming obese or something. But I'm laughing about it rather than being, because I can cope with it. There's always another day. There's always another week to do something to make yourself feel better. Looking at somebody's face that you've made feel good about something makes yourself feel better. For me, it does anyway. And I wouldn't have that, genuinely would not have that, if I hadn't have started something like this, and which is progressing me onto other things. So I can't really say anything other than it changed my life. It wasn't I had to wait till the end to deal with these things. It wasn't I had to have the tools to deal with them, because they were brought in from the very beginning, from day one, from my first interaction with people who I trusted. I was able to just start that day. It wasn't wait 6 weeks and you'll be better. I'm not better. Wait 6 weeks and your life will be a breeze. Life is not a breeze, but it's start this day, and this is the start. This is the day you've chosen to start to incorporate things into your life that can make those days easier to deal with, easier to take, not having to hide away from them or just end them. And it's not about just living the next day for a better day. You can make every day a good day.
Essentially what Leanne came to us, and she was describing to us how, at the time when she came to us, she was actively suicidal, and how through the strategies that she learned on our program, she actually completely turned her life around, not only in terms of her mental health, but actually because of her mental health, she had also completely disengaged from her family. She was pretty much living in an outhouse, because she just couldn't deal with being around her family, and she's got a big family, lots of children, and she's reconnected. She got in control of her mental health. She had pain problems, and she managed to get those under control. And the other thing was, which we were absolutely delighted about, was she reconnected with her family. And what was even better was that she was describing how she was using the strategies that she learned in connection with her family members. So one of the things she describes is the way she reconnected with one of her daughters was to do Tai Chi in the woods with her, because that's one of the strategies that we teach. And then she was describing how, you know, strategies will move on. That she said, you know, I don't really do Tai Chi with my daughter anymore, because actually that was the way that my daughter used to reconnect with me. And she'd come and say, oh, let's do some Tai Chi together, Mum. And that was kind of her way of going, I need some love, I need some attention, I want to connect with you. And actually now that relationship's back to, she said, even better than it was before. And now she doesn't need it anymore, so she continues to do Tai Chi on her own, but actually they found other ways of connecting together. So it was just fascinating and so rewarding for us to see how, you know, the strategies had influenced every single element of her life, and she'd really just gathered them up and run with it. Dee, was there anything else that I've missed in terms of Leanne's video?
I think I'd just like to share that when we talk about Leanne and many of our other participants who've been so fantastic to share their stories on our website and so on, we smile, we get energized, we get hopeful, and that's part of that reciprocal relationship that we develop with these amazing individuals. Leanne recently had to have some surgery, and it had to be done under a local, and the local wore off, and she messaged me to say that she was using 2 of the strategies that she'd learnt about on the programme, and then committed to really putting into practice and developing. She used those and told the person who was operating that she didn't require any more pain medication. She was using these strategies. I have to admit my chin rather hit the floor when she shared that with me. But I think sort of grounding it for Leanne is that she does tell us we helped her regain her hope, that the program helped her work out that she was Leanne again, rather than somebody who'd been injured and lost her personal identity. Suddenly she was Leanne. And if you've got the chance, we really would encourage you to watch her story. She's full of bubbly life.
Yeah, and also just to let you know, there are other participant videos on our website as well, so you can also go there to get some more direct feedback. But so Leanne's story is typical of how our participants generally enter the program, i.e. that they come in with a very limited number of strategies to manage their condition, and then they exit with hope, like Dee just said, a strong foundation for their recovery, a greater sense of personal identity, and their own personalized Energize Recovery toolkit with their strategies. And typically people arrive with about just over 3 strategies, 3.75 on average to be exact, and they leave 6 weeks later with a toolkit of just over 26 strategies, 26.25 strategies. So there's this enormous amount of growth and knowledge about, you know, what strategies they can use, and those are the ones that they've actively chosen to use in their own toolkit, which is pretty cool. So how do we do this? Well, each of the programs covers 6 modules. So we start with energy, recovery, and bodily sensations, which also includes pain. We then move on to thoughts and emotions, then movement and activity, then sleep. The 5th module is the Energize Recovery Toolkit module, and then the final one is energizing your recovery in the future. And as you can see from the slide shown at the moment, there are a range of strategies taught in each of the sessions, some of which we'll be introducing you to today. And each of the sessions are approximately an hour long, and then participants also complete guided coursework for the different modules with the support of a handbook, which is a really comprehensive handbook, which they can either have in digital or hard copy form. And we also give them lots of links to other helpful resources which they can go and look at their own leisure. So the strategies that we introduce them to are all invitational, and we are now going to invite you to experience a taste of 3 of them. Dee, are you going to take over from me?
I am, thank you. So just to reiterate, as Victoria said, these are invitational. Please feel free to engage or not as you wish. So we're going to cover the stop relaxation technique, 5 teaspoons of energy, and moments of mindfulness. So we're going to start with relaxation. And relaxation is a theme that runs throughout the programme. And today we thought we would share with you the stop technique. And you might choose to use that yourself or with your client. It's a method that we can use to reduce threat. So stop stands for stop, T for take a breath, O for observe, and P for proceed. And the idea behind this technique is that if your thoughts are racing, or your stress levels suddenly increase, or you have a burst of pain, or your family member has done something to upset you and you feel like you're about to shout, then you can take a moment to stop. Take a breath. And that breath, oops.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I'm so sorry. That was me admitting.
That's okay. I'm just going to go.
I'm really sorry.
Can we just go back one, Sally?
I could see, I'm so sorry. I could see somebody was trying to get in.
Okay, don't worry. So yeah, so I'll just start that again.
Apologies.
No problem at all. So something is beginning to wind you up. So you sort of say to yourself, stop. So quite sharp, hard. You don't have to say it out loud, but it's stop, whatever you're doing. Take a breath. And because you're tense, you'll automatically take a deep breath. And that sudden overload of oxygen on your brain will actually give you an automatic relaxation. So that's how our parasympathetic nervous system comes into play. So you take your breath, you observe what's happening in your body, in your thoughts, in your emotions, in your behaviors. Maybe you were about to yell at somebody in the family, and quite often we clench our fists, don't we? So you take your breath, just relax your fists. And then once you've done that observation, quick, brief observation, then you proceed. You continue with what you were doing, taking the opportunity to hopefully change your thoughts, your emotions, behaviours that were unhelpful. So rather than holding your fists up to that family member and getting ready to shout and scream at them, maybe you just take that moment and you share what you need to say in a calm way. So the technique is really quick and can be used at any time to help control stress levels. So the next picture, which you've had a sneaky peek at.
Well, I have to say, Dee, I did just use that technique as I was obviously having a little bit of a stressful moment. I did my stop.
Thank you. So I'm going to pull the picture up, and for some of you it may activate stress levels. You know, it's a picture of a snake, so it may activate stress levels, and that's obviously quite deliberate on our part. And as I pull the picture up, I will begin to take you through the stop technique. Okay. Stop. take a breath. What are your thoughts? What are your emotions? What are you doing with your feet? And now we're just going to proceed back to the session. Okay. So I'm just going to ask Sally and Janet and then Victoria whether you noticed anything during that. Maybe Sally, I'll ask you to go first because you'd already done your practice in real time.
I was launched into the stressful situation.
So did you notice anything in your body, in your thoughts, in your emotions or behaviors that were unhelpful?
That was unhelpful?
Or that you then changed?
Okay, that I changed. Yes, because I mean, it was an unfortunate incident that I took control of the slides and obviously slightly ruined the kind of presentation. And so, but it was actually quite timely because for myself, you just go, okay, well, you stop and then you kind of think and you think, well, actually, no terrible harm is done. Okay, I'm sorry I exposed everybody to the snake before they were ready. But I was aware of doing that. And then my hands before were like this and they did relax. So although it was unfortunate, it was actually quite appropriate. So.
Thank you, Sally. Janet, do you have anything to add?
I think when you say stop, that it forces you to take a breath.
Yes.
It actually forces you to do the obvious and to sit back. So I have to say, I know I'm not really afraid of snakes and I knew it was coming. But I know that there's other situations where I am here sitting, pulling my hair out and want to bash my head, never mind the fists into the wall,
Yes.
where actually doing that will allow me to stop and take a breath.
Victoria, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, apart from the fact I've seen that slide very many times, so it doesn't.
Do you have a name for it now?
It doesn't really cause me any stress. However, I just think just on the technique itself, I just think like's been said before, that there's that element of the forcefulness of it. We all know that taking a moment away from a stressful situation is a good thing, but it's the force and it's that taking that active control that is so helpful. It's that going stop, and it's deliberate and it's controlled, and that actually sort of jolts you. And I think to me, that's the power of the technique. It's not just going, oh, take a deep breath, you'll be okay. It's, well, we all tell that to each other, don't we?
We do.
Take a deep breath.
Have a cup of tea.
But I think, and it's that forceful take control, bang. It's deliberate, and you go. And then you are taking control of the situation, and there's something incredibly powerful about that, as well as all the benefits of the breath and the parasympathetic nervous system and all of those wonderful things.
That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all. And I think the only other thing that I want to share, just because there might be some people who are experiencing this as well. So I'm also not frightened of snakes. And I have touched snakes in the past, but whenever I look at that picture, I feel like I'm just moving my feet one step back. And some of you may even have looked on the floor to check whether there was a snake. And that just shows the amazing power of our nervous system, that we can respond like that. But as Victoria so articulately then went on to say, it's also that amazing part of the nervous system that we can learn new things and we can learn new strategies. So thank you very much. And I'm now going to hand over to Victoria to talk about our next strategy, 5 teaspoons of energy.
So this is changing things up completely. This is 5 teaspoons of energy is a metaphor that allows us to consider our personal energy reserves. So picture this, you wake up every morning and you have 5 teaspoons of energy. Once you've spent them, they're gone. And you can't refill them until either you've rested or ideally you've had a night's sleep. So we know that energy expenditure isn't equal from day to day, as our activities are going to vary and the demands vary every day. So just out of example, we've got most people work 5 days a week, or many people work 5 days a week, and will then have a 6th day catching up on household tasks, and then potentially a 7th more restful day. And to accommodate for that sort of variation, we can reduce activity in one area to save energy for another activity on that same day. Or we can borrow a teaspoon either from the day before or from the day after. But then you've got to remember that only leaves you with 4 teaspoons on the day that you've borrowed the energy from. So practical exercise now for you, if you'd like to, is just have a think about yesterday and make a mental note or jot down the primary activities that you did. And we're going to give you a couple of minutes just to do that. Okay, so now having a look at your list, decide whether yesterday was a low, medium, or high activity day. And whilst you're looking at that, think about, did you have enough energy to actually meet those demands? And then if it was a high activity day, think about, where did you borrow the energy from? Did you borrow a little bit from today because you knew that today would be a little bit less energy intensive, or maybe the day before? And likewise, if it was a low activity day, have you actually got leftover energy for today because you knew that today would be a high energy expenditure day? So for instance, for me, I don't work on a Tuesday morning. I have it off. It's very, very, very luxurious. So actually whilst I worked in the afternoon and had quite a high energy intensive couple of hours then, actually the morning was really relaxed. So actually I have carried over energy into today because I've got a really busy day. So just have a think about that. Does anyone, Sally, Janet, and Dee, would you like to share about yours? Or
I'm just going to observe, actually, a real hands up moment here, that when you kicked off this session, you just flowed. And then when I did the principles of recovery, I was a bit stumbly. And I'm going to attribute that to the fact that you had a morning off yesterday morning and I was jumping hither, thither, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to go.
Okay, I'll take that. Yeah.
But no, I did know that actually today is actually my lighter sandwich between a busy day yesterday of lots of different things going on and a busy day tomorrow of lots of different things going on. So I've been mindful of how I manage that in the week. Sally, Janet, have either of you got any? Yeah, Janet.
Yesterday I wasn't working in the morning also, but I have a very boisterous dog, so I walked in for 2 hours.
Nice.
And did some housekeeping. And then I worked in the afternoon, so I did have energy because I think walking the dog gave me more energy, but I'd still say it was a medium level day. So today I've got a little bit left over.
Excellent. And it's such a helpful metaphor, and it really can help you to plan your activities across a week and just think about, just take that moment to think about how much energy we are spending each day and where is that energy coming from, because actually our energy isn't infinite, and we've actually got to make sure that we're allocating it out in a reasonably even manner. And so it's quite helpful to look at it from that perspective. So you might want to think about after today's session, you might want to have a think about what you've got planned for tomorrow and see where that energy is coming from. Are you going to leave a little bit over from today, or are you going to grab some from what, Friday? So I hope you find that another little helpful tip.
But just know you can't keep borrowing, you know, from not just Friday this week, but Friday next week as well.
I owe you.
I owe you, yes. So our final taster for today is something that we call moments of mindfulness. So mindfulness is the practice of paying full attention to whatever is happening in the present moment, including what you can see, what you can hear, what you can smell, what you can taste, and also your state of mind, your thoughts, and any bodily sensations. And it can result in some real benefits in reducing symptoms of depression, anxiety, stress, and pain. Leanne mentions in her interview that she mentions a picture that one of her children drew for her, and it's in her bed. She doesn't give the full story, but this picture is in her bedroom, and sometimes she just literally spends a few seconds really truly focused on the picture, really engaged with it, and noticing her thoughts, her emotions, her bodily sensations, noises outside, her love for her children, etc., etc., while she's engaging with that picture. And if we think back to the 5 teaspoons of energy that Victoria was talking about, we can actually use moments of mindfulness to help us restore and rebalance some of our expenditure. So on a busy day, I quite often use a moment of mindfulness with a freshly made cup of tea. So that would mean that I would have my drink and I would be engaging with the warmth in my hands, the feel of the cup, the look of the cup or the mug, light glittering on the surface of the tea, the taste of the tea, and so on. And maybe I spend 30 seconds to a minute doing it and find it just quite helpful. It just soothes you down momentarily. So I thought we might do a practical exercise, and I don't have a cup of tea because it would be very cold by now, but I do have my water bottle here. And for those of you who've perhaps not got a cup of tea or a suitable drink to hand, you might want to focus on the lovely picture of elephants. Victoria and I are very partial to elephants, so they appear in most of our presentations, and this is a particularly lovely one for the exercise that we're going to do. So if you have a drink to hand, please just notice it. Make sure you're sitting comfortably. Relax your shoulders. Keep your eyes open and just softly focused on your chosen subject. And let your breath sigh out. What can you see? How is the light playing on what you are looking at? What can you hear? Are you noticing any sensations in your body? What can you feel under your hands? Can you smell anything? Where are your thoughts? And how are your emotions? And now just take a couple of deeper breaths and return your attention to the session. So one of the differences in mindfulness as opposed to relaxation is that we keep our eyes open. We talk in a relatively normal voice when we're helping people learn mindfulness, and also if we're doing it ourselves, we talk to ourselves normally. We maintain awareness and presence in the moment. Whereas relaxation, a bit different with the stop technique because it's for threat activation, but most relaxation is done really quite gently, a little bit more soothing, a little bit slower. People may be asked to close their eyes and so on. So very different to the mindfulness that we've just done. Janet, Sally, do either of you have anything you'd like to share with us about that mindfulness moment?
Well, I think I should be introducing this into all future webinars. It was lovely. Because, you know, you're very, you know, sort of when you're doing something like this, you're aware that you're being recorded and everything. And so it is, you know, it's I enjoy doing it, but there is an element of sort of stress to it, which is obviously understandable. And actually by doing that, I was still aware, of course, of everything that was going on, but it was very relaxing. I got a slight tingling sensation as I think I kind of relaxed a little bit more. And yes, I think we might just open the next webinar session with a mindful moment.
Well, you did say, Sally, that there's those two extensively long minutes while you're waiting.
We have two very long minutes where we're waiting for people to sort of, you know, join the kind of webinar. There isn't really much to sort of say and everything. So that's a very good point, Victoria. I think we'll have 2 minutes of mindfulness.
Janet, what would you like to add?
Apart from the fact that my drink was cold, so I felt a very cold cup between my hands. But I do know that I have to do that more often. And even just that one moment is concentrating on that one thing, which is not me thinking about another 100 things. And that's really important.
And I think that's the thing, is that we all know we should do these things. So we know that if we're in a stressful situation, we should stop and just take a breath and do those things. And we know that we should have moments where we actually are just kind of, you know, a bit more have mindfulness and all that. We know those things, but we don't actually structure them into our day. I think that's a
very, very good point. Thank you, Sally. There's actually a phenomenon that is named after that. It's called the Gi Joe Fallacy.
Oh.
And it's you know, we all think that knowing is half the battle. And it's not. You actually need to practice. You need to put the effort in to integrate the strategies. And actually, part of what we do in the course is that integration piece. It's so important. It's not good enough to just teach people these strategies. We've actually got to really help them to integrate them into their daily lives, and we give them all sorts of techniques to do that. But that's also why we structure it over 6 weeks and give them little bits of homework to do in between, and it's all very, very deliberate to actually help somebody get into those habits. Because, for instance, you know, things like gratitude, well, we call it 3 good things, which I think we might be covering in another session. That is, there's evidence to say that it's incredibly effective, but only if it's practiced regularly. It's not good enough if you're just doing it once every 3 months. You've got to do it every day. You know, that's how it works. And so you've got to find ways to actually be able to incorporate those 2 or 3 minutes into your day every day.
And there's lots of gaps that you can do so.
Yeah.
You can, if you're watching something on television with ads and you're not fast forwarding, just mute the telly, do a moment of mindfulness. I use my lounge curtains at that point. I call them my mindfulness curtains. So there are gaps we can make use of. So anyway,
So
I'm going to hand back to Victoria because we could talk about this all afternoon.
So Dee, can I just actually make a note and tell you that it is now 20 past, because I know that you have patients to see. So I will leave it to you to sort of when you because you may need to leave the session a bit earlier, I think. So
Thank you, Sally. Thank you. I'll probably just go in 2 or 3 minutes time, but Victoria will still be here for the questions.
But that actually brings us to the end of today's presentation. So Sally, over to you, and if anyone's got any questions.
Okay, so I don't know, are there any questions that have been written down, Janet?
There hasn't been any questions sent through. Actually, there is a couple here. Sorry, there was a couple I wrote down before. To either of you, actually. Are you able to get funding for these courses if you're going through a litigation claim?
Absolutely.
So,
and actually a lot of our referrals are through case managers, so they are accessing funding through a claim. We've also been in liaison with certain claimant solicitors as well, so they could refer directly into us if they wanted to. There's no reason why insurance companies couldn't do so as well. But actually, if you're looking to access it through the claim, then usually that would be either through your claimant solicitor or through your case manager. Yes, we do accept those third-party referrals.
Great. And I'm sure there's case managers who don't know about you. We speak to lots of case managers on a daily basis. Can we mention you to case managers? How does that
work? So, just to put it in context, we launched in November last year. So actually, we're very new to market in terms of knowledge of. So, the more that we can get out there and people know about us, the better for everyone, hopefully.
Lovely. I have one more question here. I don't think there's anything else.
There's some more stuff,
more
questions coming in on the chat.
Brilliant. The one here I've written down, again to either of you, if you were to start a course, but you're unwell or you can't attend for a period of time, are you able to, or can the course be put on hold and then you can rejoin it later?
Dee, do you want to go?
I do, yes. We've actually got a gentleman at the moment who's having a few problems, and so absolutely that is possible. But the gentleman that sprang to mind then, he had a connectivity problem, so he attended part of the session but not the other part. And so we have our sessions recorded so that participants can catch up on sessions, or if they want to hear it again. They've also got their very comprehensive handbook. I should just make clear, the recordings are just Victoria and I. They are not with other facilitators or other participants. So it's just recording it, and we act as each other's participants during that recording. But certainly most people would find that they might want to just pass up on that particular group and rejoin a subsequent group. So that's not a problem at all.
And I think it all comes down to the individual's needs. I think we would work with that person individually to find out what the issue was, how long that's likely to last for, and we would work out the best way to make sure that they can engage with the program.
Great. That was my next question, was about the individual person. Brilliant.
Sally, I am going to go now. I do apologise. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the session, and see you next time.
Thank you very much, Dee. Thank you.
Victoria, if you don't mind, I just have one question that's been typed up. What research feedback have you had to date, and any other published info, re the subject? What you're doing.
Okay, so quite a few there. So just in terms of the publications, so Dee and I have got a few publications that we have done in conference format. So that's all on our website. If you go to the evidence tab, and at the bottom of that page there is all our publications that you can go and find out about. Sorry, the rest of it. Can you just repeat that again, Janet?
Yeah. So what research feedback have you had to date, and any other published info, RE.
Yeah, so feedback has been fantastic. Again, all of the feedback, or there's a lot of feedback that you can get both in written and video form on our website. Generally, 100% of the feedback to date has been really fantastic, and every single participant who's come through our doors has made a good amount of progress, which we've been delighted about. We are undertaking an audit of all our participants. So, and the plan is, so Dee has a PhD, so she's got a massive background in research, and the plan is to that we are actively undertaking audit as we go along. And the aim is that once we have enough data to complete that, we will be publishing the audit results as well, and that will all be on our website.
Oh, great. And are the costs also, so another one, just last question there, are there costs available on the website as well?
The costs are, but I'm happy to tell you now. So we've got two rates. We've got our self-referral rate for individuals, and that's £300, it's fixed fee. And then for third-party referrers, it's £475 fixed fee. And that's because of the additional administrative and liaison that is required in reports. So for instance, the self-referrers, for instance, won't need any kind of completion documentation, whereas say a case manager is going to need some form of write-up about that person at the end that they can then forward on to their instructing parties, etc. Oh, and while I'm on that, actually, just so until the 17th of May, we have a lockdown discount. So we are offering a 15% discount on both packages until the 17th of May, when hopefully we can all go back to some form of normality.
And no more questions I can see.
Super. So thank you very much. So I seem to have lost control now. Would you mind just moving over to the next slide? Are you able to do that, Victoria? Or are you...
I can try. I don't know if I don't have control, Sally. Oh, shame has Dee disappeared with her with her control.
With the control. Oh no, here we go. Okay. So thank you very much, both Victoria and Dee, and thank you very much everybody who's joined us as well. We hope that was very useful, and I found it very, very useful. And I think even just not for sort of actually somebody in recovery or whatever, I think it was very useful sort of strategies. So hopefully for somebody who is in that situation, it would be very, very helpful indeed. The recording of this will be made available on our website, and I think Jackie is going to put some links up so that you can go and have a look at that. It will be probably by Friday, and there's also a fact sheet there that we will post online, and we will email the fact sheet to people who have signed up for this webinar as well. So you'll get that one sort of pretty much straight away tomorrow. And we do have further webinars lined up, so please do keep an eye on our website, and we will send you email reminders as well. And we do have another one coming up with Dee and Victoria, which is on the 12th
of May. The
12th of May. Yes. So I hope if you found that interesting, everybody will be able to join that one as well. So thank you again, Victoria, and Janet, thank you for your input, and Jackie, thank you for your input behind the scenes.
Jackie has just put the links up for everybody, so that's good, thank you.
And goodbye to everybody.
Thank you so much, Sally.
Hi guys, thanks.
Thanks.
Victoria,
Bye.
thank you.
Bye.